Mass Effect fans, today we are returning to that big question we have been waiting on for a very long time but still have not been able to fully see. Where is Mass Effect 5? Is this game still coming? Is BioWare really ready to bring this universe back? Or were the teasers, and 7-day hints, and Liara shots we have seen for years just small pieces left behind to keep fans standing? Because when we look at the 2026 update, the picture is both hopeful and a little worrying. In the last month, there has been no major trailer, no gameplay shown, and no release date announced. But maybe that silence itself is the biggest thing we need to talk about when it comes to Mass Effect 5. First, let's make this clear. Mass Effect 5 does not seem to be cancelled. This is very important, because especially in recent years, there has been so much restructuring, layoffs, Dragon Age discussion, and major financial movement on EA's side around BioWare that many fans naturally started asking, is this game still really being made? BioWare's last major official message was that the game is in development and that EA and BioWare are still committed to telling new stories in the Mass Effect universe. So the clearest answer we have is this: yes, the new Mass Effect is still alive. But that answer does not mean the game is close. One of the most notable things that happened in the last month was actually something that did not happen. Mass Effect 5 was once again absent from Summer Game Fest 2026. At major gaming events, people always hold on to the same hope. Maybe this time BioWare will come out and show a new teaser. Maybe they will give us even a short logo animation. Maybe we will hear a new line from Liara. Maybe it will just say coming soon. But it did not happen. And that absence means two different things for fans. On one side, there are people saying, the game is still in a very early stage, so they are not showing it. On the other side, there are people asking, if this many years have passed and there is still nothing to show, what state is BioWare really in? This is where Mike Gamble's statement from April 2026 matters. When a fan asked why we had not seen anything new about Mass Effect 5 in a long time, Gamble's message was very simple. The team is working, and there is not much time to tease. That sentence may be short, but it means a lot to fans. Because when a game developer says we are working, that can be a good sign. But at the same time, it also means we are not in the marketing stage right now. We are not ready for a big showing. So the most realistic interpretation of the 2026 update is this: BioWare is working on Mass Effect 5, but the game may not yet be at the level where they can reintroduce it to the world. BioWare's N7-Day 2025 message is still one of the most important official sources at this point. In that message, Mike Gamble said the team was focused on Mass Effect, and that there was so much universe to cover, so many features to build, and so many romance options to figure out. Even that small detail is actually a big signal for Mass Effect fans. Because Mass Effect is not just space battles, Reaper remains, or N7 armor. Mass Effect means the bond you build with your squad mates, the Normandy feeling, the weight of your decisions, romance options, political crises, and personal choices that shape the fate of the galaxy. BioWare seems to know that. But the more serious side of the situation is BioWare's structure. In the studio update that came in January 2025, it was said that the new Mass Effect was now being developed by a core team. It was emphasized that this team included veteran names we know from the original trilogy era, like Mike Gamble, Preston Watamaniuk, Derek Watts, and Parrish Lay. On paper, this is great news, because having people at the table again who understand the DNA that made Mass Effect feel like Mass Effect increases fan confidence. But that same statement also meant that BioWare was not working on this game with the full power of the entire studio, that teams were being reorganized, and that some employees had been redirected to different positions inside EA. That is why when we talk about Mass Effect 5, we cannot just say, the old team is back, everything will be perfect. Yes, veteran names matter. Yes, having people in leadership who understand the spirit of the original trilogy is a major plus. But game development is no longer a process that can be saved just by the presence of a few legendary names. Studio culture, budget, time, technology, management pressure, and EA's expectations are just as important as the creative team. Mass Effect 5 does not only have to be a good game, it has to prove that BioWare still has weight in the world of big RPGs. That is why this game does not look like an ordinary sequel, but almost like a test of existence. One of the good pieces of news is that Mass Effect 5 has been described as a single-player experience. This is very important for fans, because the heart of Mass Effect has always been single-player storytelling. Yes, Mass Effect 3's multiplayer mode had its own audience and was fun, but no one loved Mass Effect for live service missions, seasonal battle pass systems, or constant online grinding. People loved this series because they wanted to return to the Normandy. People loved this series because when a door opened, they wondered whether Garrus, Tali, Liara, Rex, or new unforgettable characters were waiting inside. That is why the single-player direction of the new game is so critical. On the release date side, we need to be realistic. Right now, there is no official release date. There is not even an official release year. If we consider that the game still seemed to be close to early production or pre-production in early 2025, expecting it to come out in 2026 is almost impossible. Even 2027 may be too optimistic. Mass Effect 5 is most likely still a long-term project. This should be the most honest point of the video. Fans can get excited, build theories, and wait for N7 Day. But the idea that the game is coming soon is not realistic right now. If BioWare rushes this game, the cost could be very heavy. So, what have we actually seen about the game so far? The first big clue was the Game Awards 2020 teaser. In that teaser, we heard the sound of a Reaper. We saw images in the distance that looked like Reaper remains. And most importantly, we watched a character who looked like Liara Tassoni find a piece of N7 armor on a snowy planet. That scene is still at the center of Mass Effect 5 theories. Because Liara's presence makes us think the game will be connected to the original trilogy. The Reaper remains also make us feel like we may be looking at a universe after Mass Effect 3. Liara finding a piece of N7 armor created the biggest question in fans' minds. Will Shepard return? We need to say this clearly. BioWare has not officially confirmed that Shepard will return. This is only an expectation created by the teaser. But N7 armor is not a random symbol. In the Mass Effect world, when people hear N7, they directly think of Commander Shepard. That is why it is very natural for fans to interpret that piece as a Shepard connection. Still, BioWare has to be very careful here, because bringing Shepard back would create massive hype, but it would also make the choices players made in Mass Effect 3 very complicated. The other major question is the Andromeda connection. Since the first teaser, fans have been debating whether the new game will take place only in the Milky Way, or whether it will also bring Andromeda into the picture and connect the two galaxies. Because Andromeda offers a timeline that stretches about 600 years after Mass Effect 3. Since Liara is an Asari, she can live for a very long time. So theoretically, she could exist both in the period after Mass Effect 3 and in a period close to the Andromeda timeline. This opens a very interesting door for BioWare, using the nostalgia of the original trilogy while also re-evaluating the unfinished ideas of Andromeda. The N7 Day 2023 teasers grew this theory even more. Phrases like Andromeda distress signal detected, codes like Epsilon, Oculon, Nebula, and Defiance, and the 2819 reference became a puzzle fans have been trying to solve for years. Is 2819 really a year? Is this date being used for the Andromeda Initiative's journey, the connection between the Milky Way and Andromeda, or a new galactic crisis? None of this has been officially explained, but the fact that BioWare used the word Andromeda so clearly suggests that, at the very least, Andromeda may not be completely ignored. The concept art has also created a lot of theories in the same way. In the image known as Mudskipper, we see silhouettes of characters from different species. Some people think one of these characters looks similar to an Angara. If that is true, the Andromeda connection becomes even stronger. In other images, people discuss the possibility of species like Salarian, Drell, Krogan, Turian, Asari, Human, and even Geth. Especially the bar atmosphere in the N7 Day 2023 image gave some fans an afterlife vibe from Omega. The red and blue tones also fueled the theory that the Paragon and Renegade system could return. There is no official confirmation, but BioWare knows very well what these symbols mean. On the N7 Day 2025 side, there was no major trailer about the game, but small hints were still discussed. Fans debated whether Krogan-themed images and Civil War style comments could point to Krogan politics, the balance of power after Tuchanka, or the post-war galactic order being important in the new game. This could be a very logical theory, because one of the heaviest consequences of the choices we made at the end of Mass Effect 3 was the Krogan people and the genophage issue. If the new game really takes place after Mass Effect 3, the future of the Krogan people could be a massive topic for the political balance of the galaxy. But again, let's underline this. For now, this is in theory territory. Another interesting development is the Mass Effect TV series. According to BioWare's statement, the series being developed on Amazon's side will not retell Commander Shepard's story and will focus on a new story after the original trilogy. This is not direct gameplay information for the game, but it is important for the future of the universe. Because BioWare said they are thinking about where the series will fit inside Mass Effect canon and how it will relate to the new game. This could mean one thing. EA and BioWare want to rebuild Mass Effect not just as a game, but as a larger sci-fi universe brand. If the series succeeds, interest in the new game could also grow. But at this point, we also need to talk about EA's major buyout process. EA's massive $55 billion deal, and the fact that it includes around $20 billion in debt financing, became a big topic in the gaming world. This does not directly mean Mass Effect 5 will be negatively affected. There is no official statement like that. But in large companies, these kinds of financial pressures usually mean more efficiency, tighter budget control, and clearer commercial expectations. For a high-budget and risky RPG like Mass Effect 5, which has been in development for a long time, this environment could be both an opportunity and a danger. The opportunity is this: EA knows the value of the Mass Effect brand. If this universe returns in the right way, it will not just sell games, it will also open the door for a series, merch, remasters, spin-offs, and bigger media projects. The danger is this: if EA puts too much pressure on BioWare with short-term commercial expectations, shows the game too early, or pushes it to release in a rushed state, the result may not satisfy fans. Mass Effect 5's biggest need is time. Because this is not just a game where the graphics need to be good, and the combat needs to be fast. This game has to give the player that feeling of, the fate of the galaxy is in my price hands again. BioWare's situation also makes this story more dramatic. After Dragon Age, the Veilguard, the studio's reputation is still being debated. Some players think BioWare has lost its old magic. Others believe the studio can still return with the right project and the right team. That is exactly why Mass Effect 5 is such a huge test. If BioWare succeeds with this game, the sentence, "BioWare is back," could become real. But if this game also falls below expectations, then Mass Effect could face the risk of becoming a legend that fans only remember with nostalgia. So, what should we not expect anytime soon? I do not think we should expect a release date in 2026. A big gameplay demo may also be too early. Even a full new cinematic trailer is not guaranteed. Because if BioWare is truly building the game quietly right now, they may wait for a stronger reveal moment instead of rushing out a half-ready showing. The fact that there has been no news in the last month does not mean the game is dead, but it also does not mean the game will be in our hands soon. The most accurate interpretation is that the game is still deep in development, and BioWare does not want to talk too much right now. The most logical expectation point is once again N7 Day 2026. November 7 is always a special day for Mass Effect fans, and BioWare usually tries not to let that date pass completely empty, but expectations need to be set correctly here. Maybe we will only get a blog post. Maybe a small piece of concept art will be shared. Maybe we will see a new transmission, a code, a word, or a symbol. Maybe we will actually get the bigger teaser people have been waiting for years. But based on the information we have right now, thinking of N7 Day 2026 as a guaranteed gameplay reveal could lead to disappointment. A more realistic expectation is this: a small but meaningful signal. The thing I am most curious about is which identity BioWare will choose for this game. Will Mass Effect 5 be a nostalgic return completely to the original trilogy? Or will it tell a bigger story that brings Andromeda into the picture and connects two galaxies? Will Shepard's legacy be at the center of the game, or will we redefine the N7 concept with a new protagonist? Did the galaxy really recover after the Reapers, or will we see a darker, politically fractured, and unsafe universe after the war? This is exactly what makes Mass Effect 5 interesting. We have very few answers, but every clue opens the door to a massive theory. In the end, the Mass Effect 5 2026 update tells us this: the game is still alive, but it requires patience. BioWare is quiet, but it has not completely disappeared. Between Liara, the N7 armor, Reaper remains, Andromeda signals, Krogan theories, single-player confirmation, veteran developers, and the Amazon series, the Mass Effect universe seems to be preparing to wake up again. But whether that awakening will be legendary or disappoint fans once more depends entirely on how carefully BioWare builds this game. If you, like me, want Mass Effect to return, leave a like on the video, write in the comments what you expect most from Mass Effect 5, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.